Hi everybody, welcome to the newest art journal watch along video. Today I am doing a quite quick design, going for mostly pastel chalks because I just felt like it and I don't know why. So I'm going in with a light gray pastel chalk first and adding different shades of darker or warmer grays. And then I'm just blending them with my finger to have the first kind of a background there. The topic of today's page is there's always something beautiful, or you can always experience something good within the ugly things of the world. So ugly things are not always only ugly. There's usually something in there that you can say is kind of beautiful. For example, you experience something awful at, I don't know, a store, an authority, you have to stand in line for how many hours to do something that you have to do. But while you do that, you meet somebody cool and you have a great chat or something. So things like that is the background story for today's page. So once I have all the background solid gray down, I'm just scribbling and scraggling those weird gray lines because I have a hard time painting something really ugly that I usually paint in a way that it looks nice or beautiful, and I'm going for a flower field here, and I have a really hard time to paint ugly flowers. I don't really know how to do that. So I went for those squiggly, scraggly gray lines that kind of blend into the background but stand out in a weird way as well, and that the first reaction to looking at it is like, ugh. Okay, what's that, right? So this is what I'm going for here. And I'm dabbing only with my finger a bit to blend it a tiny bit into the background and to, especially on the upper part where you're further to the horizon. So I'm using one warmer gray and one cooler gray to also, well, create a certain kind of depth or a dimension there, but not too much, since this should blend into the background and be kind of abstract and not really it could be a flower field, but it could also mean other things depending on who the viewer is, pretty much. So that's why I went with those weird scraggly lines there. So with black, I'm outlining a few of the flowers and excuse me, in the buds, and then I draw in a few of the stalks of those flowers. But again, I have to be very careful not to draw in any details at all, because I'm going for the mass here, the what could be the overall feel of a painting when you go back to the theme or the topic of the painting, saying that in a whole array of bad things, there's like one good thing that, or one good element that you see. So I want to have all of the gray flowers to be the whole array of things that you might not like, or that you have not the greatest experiences with. If you have too many details in there, then one thing stands out over the other with those gray and black things. So I really have to make sure that I don't do that, which somehow my hands so badly wanted to do, but I had to, hold myself back and restrain how much detail I put into the still kind of background-ish painting. So the lower part of the page, I just added a bit of black and blended it in to have kind of a frame going on, but that is very subtle. And with a very light gray now, I'm going in and adding a streak of highlight here and there on the petals, as well as on the upper part of the page, to have again this kind of frame but not really feel to the page. And then I'm pretty much done with the major part of the painting. It was fairly quick. This is like 5.5 minutes in, so it doesn't take a lot of time, and with pastels and staying really loose on the painting, you can produce something fairly quickly. So I'm just adding a whole coat of fixative spray to have the layer sealed in before I go in with the next layer that I definitely do not want to blend into the background, because this is the good thing that I'm going to paint, the good experience, the good part of something that you actually don't like, but that good part has to stand out. It has to be colorful, it has to be unique, and it has to be a separate layer. So that's why I'm sealing in the first layer, to make sure that I do not blend it. And now I'm going for a beautiful flower in a way that I'm not sure if something like that exists in real life. I guess it very much reminds me of the spring flowers, like the first ones that come out of the earth once the first bit of snow is melted. But I don't think that it is actually a real flower. And if it is, I don't know the name for it, so you maybe want to help me out there with a name if it is a real flower, which I doubt. So I'm just creating kind of like a triangle shape for the flower and all the petals in there. And I used different kinds of purple and pink because those colors work perfectly with any gray tones. They work very well together, meaning that the purple is even more vibrant and bright with the gray backgrounds, and they're just complementary, I'd say. So I'm using only the strong, vibrant, loud colors that I have in the pink and purple tones. I'm not using the quiet ones or the light ones, because I really, really want this flower to stand out. And I'm blending the purple only to a certain extent, because I want the texture of the flower petals actually to be there, or that you could at least imagine them from the way the flower is painted. And then I'm going in with, this is quite a bluish cool green, I'd say it's a phthalo green. And I'm going in and creating the stem and the leaves of that flower. Again, the flower is definitely supposed to stand out and be in the foreground of all of the ugly plants in the back. Although I don't even know if nature has something like an ugly plant, but I guess it does. So I definitely want the colorful flower, the beautiful flower, to stand out and be in the foreground and not just mixed in there, like with the same size or the same shape than the ugly flowers. I wanted it to stand out and be significant, so that's why I'm going over so many of the background flowers or plants there, and I don't care about it. That's on purpose, pretty much. So with a light apple green or lime green, I'm creating some of the highlights in the leaves of the plant, but not too much. I'm blending it pretty well there right from the get-go. And I'm trying to stay with the phthalo green, not have the light green in there too much. So now that this first layer of the flower is dry, or laid down, I should say, I'm going into the petals of the flowers some more, adding a bit more of a turquoise bluish color, which helps along the more purple look than the pink look of the flower, which in the end I like way more. I'm also trying to not blend the blue in too much. I want some parts of the flower to be more on the pinkish side of the spectrum, but some I want more to be on the blue parts. So I have to make sure that I blend the colors well, but not too well. With a bit of white, I'm adding some highlights here or some definition, and I'm also adding some stalks that come out of the center of the flower. I don't know what they're actually called, and I don't know if they really exist in this kind of a flower, but they do in my painting. And I'm adding some pink buds or rose. This is more of a rose color, more of laid back color. I'm adding those tiny buds at the end of those fragile stems, adding some more loud pink to the petals of the flower. Just really making sure that the flower pops into your eye, that it stands out as much as it can. And that you really, well, find some beauty in there to understand or to know where I'm coming from when you later see the sentiment on the page. And I'm going just back and forth between the white and the pink and the turquoise blue, adding color to the flower petals, blending them together, letting parts of them stand out a bit more until I'm satisfied on how the flower actually looks, how the blossom looks. Once I'm done, I'm adding a bit more. This is more of a creamish white color, and I'm adding tiny highlights to the stalk and the leaves of the flower. And this cream white is a bit less cool, which blends in a bit more with the, or works better with the warmer grays of the background painting. So I'm going over the leaves and also parts of the blossom with quite a prominent big stroke of those pastels, and I'm only partially blending that. It's almost like an illustration-y or a cartoonish way of drawing. So you see now that I use another fixative spray layer upon the flower, the white is almost gone, but it will come back a bit once the spray is dry. And I'm using my blow dryer again because I'm so impatient. See, now it reappears. It's just when the page is wet, the creamish white color is, it looks totally dissolved in the liquid. So now that the second layer is dry, I'm going in with black, creating a very harsh and very dark shadow underneath or around the flower. And this is to help out the flower stand out even more from the background, to be really unique and be very, very powerful on that painting and not being immersed in the ugliness that is the background. And I'm just rubbing in the black where I think it could use the dark shadow, and for the rest I'm going over with a cream white again helping the cartoonish illustration-y look of the flower along. And there my pastel breaks, so I'm just removing the pastel by blowing onto the page. And I'm just tapping off the chalk there. I guess I just applied too much pressure, and this was only like a third of the stick left, so it had to break at one point. The next step is to add my sentiment, and for that I'm using just plain cardstock there. It's probably the back side of an old notepad or something, so it's nothing fancy, because I'm going to color it on my own, and I'm going to use the light green of the flower. I didn't have any cardstock in my stash that had pretty much the same color than that light green, so I find it way more easy to color cardstock on my own. I'm sorry, by the way, for all the coughing and the sneezing, but I'm still having quite a bit of a cold, so talking for a couple of minutes actually, well, not helping for my voice. But anyways, so I'm starting off with the same light green that I used at the flower, and I'm just rubbing it into the cardstock, and I'm going all around the edges with a medium light yellow that is, well, very similar to the green that I actually use in the middle. You see that it's not a warm yellow, it's more of a cooler one, but it's not as light and cool as lemon yellow, so it's somewhere in the middle. I'm just going around the cardstock to have, well, some more light area and well, something of an interest or a pattern going on. I think it's just nice, even if you have a smooth background there on the cardstock. So now that this is done, I have to remove my art journal book again, because it's time to spray the cardstock with fixative spray, and I don't want to have any spray on the book where I don't need it. So I'm giving it quite a good coat there, and then I'm drying it off with my blow dryer again. It's pretty much the same technique, like over and over again, going with the pastels, sealing it in with the spray, and then drying it off with the blow dryer to make things quicker. For whatever reason, there are two parts that are way more dark. I guess the moisture is still somewhere in those fibers of the cardboard, and you will see later on that I'm struggling a bit with that, but for now I think it's okay. And I didn't mind having the midsection of that banner look way lighter than the outer parts. It actually helps the dimensional or depth thing along quite a bit, which is totally on accident here. So I'm now writing down my sentiment, and somehow that cardstock kept clogging my pens. So I'm starting with the smaller one, going on to other smaller ones, and then going to a medium size permanent marker. And I have quite the struggle there to put down what I want to say, because it's just irritating when well, you don't have enough ink that goes onto whatever background you want to write something on. Sorry. You see here, this is a brand new pen, and after 2 letters it already clogged. It's totally weird. But I guess it's just a mix of the cardstock being quite rough, the pastel chalk on top, and the fixative spray maybe not being dry all the way yet. So I guess tiny pigments of that chalk just kept clogging my pens. And it's just frustrating while you write, because you can't really develop a handwriting there or a style for your lettering. Just, yeah. So this is the medium one, and this finally works. But you see that here and there I'm not having the totally dark, black, solid characters, but that you see the ink, not being put down like all the way. So the sentiment in the end reads, in the midst of ugly things, you can always find beauty. Which is, yeah, the thing with the flower in the ugly flowers. Totally weird. I'm also putting down my date here, the tiny, tiny date. And then I'm pretty much done with the banner. Or so I think. It will, time or history will tell that this is not the case, but I'm not going to tell you what stupid mistake I make again. Not yet, at least. I will in a couple of seconds. So once I know where I want to put down my banner, I'm just adding some normal hobby craft glue, and I'm putting down the layer. Unfortunately, however, well, the first I of course have to seal in my design once more. I forgot that I did that. So once that is dried off, I'm of course going on with putting down my banner. So now here we are, everything's dried off, and I forgot that, but I decided to go in as usual with my black and white permanent markers to help the details of any possible design come along a bit better and stand out. So I'm also of course doing that with the flower. Why would I not? But I'm very careful not to have too much of that black marker there, because otherwise it would look really like a cartoon or something and not really work with the rather simple but one medium only background, I'd say. So to have the flower stand out but not too much, you really have to be very careful and, well, add only so much of any other media. So once I did have all the black marker laid down, I'm going in for the white, which blends in way better. But that is just because I have those light outlines with the pastel chalks already. And now it's finally time to put down the banner. Again, like I said before, I'm just using normal craft glue here, and I am clumsy. I have always been. And now I am again, so I'm putting down my banner, and while I press it down to stay in place, it actually does not. There's a bit of glue that seeps out underneath that banner. There's one dot that I was able to remove, and I don't know how it got there. I'd say it just appeared. And the second one is actually on the, now. Ta-da, seen that? Wow, Sarah. Wow. So by that, because of that accident, actually all of the other stuff that follows now is has to happen and is not the greatest. So I had to seal the glue in with the fixative spray, because otherwise my pages, once I would have closed the book, would have been just glued together, and I didn't want that. So I covered the page with another layer of fixative spray, which, and look at the banner closely, it makes the permanent ink run. It's like, what the heck, right? Why is it permanent if it's running? Somehow the ingredients in the spray and the heat and the glue make the thicker permanent ink marker run. So to even everything out, I'm just going over the whole sentiment with my white marker, which in the end will be the foreground. The black will shine through, so it will be kind of like a shadow or a background for those letters. It will not be as great as it should be for the sentiment, but I guess it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. So that pretty much ends the page for this week. I hope you enjoyed and found something useful in the way that I put down artwork or the ramble along. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm hopefully going to see you next week with a new journal. And I can promise you already, it will be all about Halloween, because next week is Halloween. Enjoy, everybody. Have a good time, and I'm going to see you next week. Goodbye.